All right, y'all, Leland Live, Talk 99.5. It's just going to be one of those shows today. There's a lot of things going on. AJ, I have a lot of balls in the fire. No, that's a mixed metaphor. I have a lot of balls in the air. Or we all do, I guess. I don't know. What am I even saying right now? I sound like Trump. I've been watching Trump for an hour. The dude's rambling. I mean, he's rambling. Have you heard any of this?
I have heard some of it, but I'm like, you know what? If you're 78 years old and the president,
True. Yeah.
I think
Yep.
you kind of earned yourself to kind of ramble
Hey,
as much as you want.
he's the most impactful president in my lifetime, but I have been waiting today for him to take Q&A. He started this thing somewhere around 1 o'clock. And he's celebrating. He's taking a victory lap because he's now officially 1 year in office. He was inaugurated today 1 year ago, and this is what the news conference is about. So he's in front of just the media in the White House briefing room as he is on his way to Switzerland to lecture Davos, which will be epic. I can't wait to hear what he says. But dude, he went off on some dirt roads. We were off on a hiking trail at one point, and I love the man, but I'm like, his age. Are like, come on. It was like, and the media, they can't stand him. They're not listening to a thing he's saying. But anyway, we carried a lot of that live. We're not going to start with that here. We will maybe get into that in a minute live, only because when the Q&A comes, it'll be interesting to see how Trump handles some of these media types, particularly in that room. We also have Homeland Security has set up some sort of news conference that they're going to go to. I would imagine they're going to wait for the president to finish if they're smart. If they're going to get live coverage, they're going to have to wait for Trump to be done and then go to their update. This update is supposed to be about all the goings on in Minnesota. We've got subpoenas being issued for the governor, the mayor, and the attorney general in Minnesota, not over the fraud, but over their failure to act on public safety and the peace. 6 different subpoenas went out today, apparently, to come and appear before a grand jury in these matters. So things are getting legal out in Minnesota, and we will have all the details of that when that news conference happens. But the first thing we've got to get to, and I'm not trying to overinflate the story, I'm really not, but if you've been in this business, and the way I grew up in this business, you have your first duty is to protect people in the public with your platform and to warn people and get information out when it's very critical and serious. And that's why sometimes we'll go a little long form with weather stories. We're not a one-dimensional show. We're not just politics. We'll talk about whatever you want to on the show. But weather is going to be everything, it appears, starting Friday night. And y'all, this if these maps are even close, some of the maps I've seen today. And by the way, let me pause my thought right there. Do not trust weather maps that you're seeing with accumulation totals from sources that you do not know. Now, that should be your rule of thumb for everything you read on the internet. But there's a lot of junk. There are a lot of junk maps out there, people trying to hype just to get clicks, and they're not accurate. Go to our local meteorologists that you've known for years and trust and look at what they're saying. Their summary is going to be best, and it's going to be more accurate for our area. That's their area of responsibility. Just know that. But even they, today, as of early this morning, started raising, I guess we could go ahead and call it alarm bells over the potential. Listen to the words I'm saying. There'll be morons that won't hear this, and so I'll have to give all the caveats, and they won't listen to that either. Here's the caveat. It's impossible to predict precisely snow and ice in the South. It just is. It's not common down here. When we get it, it's always a weird confluence of events. So having said that, the maps today are extremely concerning. We're talking about some of them have over an inch of ice accumulation. Now, I've seen some with 2+ inches for the Birmingham area, but I don't trust that yet. If we start seeing that by Friday, it is Panic Johnson time. You know what I'm saying? It is really going to be a very, very serious event. This kind of ice accumulation Friday night through Saturday, and now they're bumping this weather system into Sunday. It looks like it may hang around and give us more of a coating. And that kind of ice accumulation is going to do severe damage to our infrastructure. It's just a fact. If it places anywhere near where they're projecting right now, it's right over Birmingham. Again, we serve a huge audience. Our circle of influence is very wide. So we go almost to Decatur, down to Prattville, over to state line really with our signal. So if you're listening to me, it's going to depend on where you are, like all weather events. So south of Birmingham, you're kind of nobody's in the clear right now, but you've got a lot less chance of getting anything but a cold rain. But right now, anywhere from Shelby County north, they're talking about a serious ice accumulation. And then, of course, the Tennessee Valley may get a massive snowfall. The state of Tennessee itself may get a foot of snow. And so we're just at the bottom half of that, where there's cool air down low, cold air down low, and warmer air above it. And so the rain will fall through that and turn into freezing rain and rain-wrapped accumulation. Even sleet is not as bad as this rain-wrapped freezing rain scenario. So we're talking about the old rule of thumb used to be a quarter of inch can cause power outages, but when you're talking about a half inch to an inch, that is absolute certainty that power is going to be widespread, just going to go off. Tree limbs and the lines themselves are just going to fall from the weight of this ice. And it's going to be extremely difficult for the electric crews to get to all of these lines. And here's the other factor in this story. I think it's one of the bigger parts of the storytelling. This is a widespread event that goes from East Texas all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina, and the band of potential damage goes right through the middle of the state of Alabama. So that being said, when you have utility crews trying to respond to restore power in a hurricane situation, for example, if the hurricane hits Florida, then crews from Alabama and Georgia can deploy to Florida. I've got two nephews that are on line crews, and they do incredible work for people to get them back online. But the damage will be so widespread, you don't have that mutual aid from your neighboring states. They're going to have to deal with their own problems, company to company inside their states. So you can see how it compounds. And then you add to that, sometimes we'll get an ice event and then we melt off in a day or so. But we've got even further cold weather and maybe even more precipitation coming next week on top of this, where we get down into the teens for several nights. So now we're talking about broken pipes, no power for days. I don't know what's going to happen at your house, and nobody does right now, but if I were you, and I know I'm me, and I've been prepping since I got up this morning, think through everything you could think to be able to do without electricity and heat your home for a week. And if we're lucky and the good Lord's with us, none of this happens. It somehow changes or moves or doesn't develop that way. Maybe we just get snow. But the ice forecast right now, just over the center of Birmingham, is a 60 or 70% chance. Now, let's do some weatherman math, if you will. A 60 or 70% chance this far out means a lot of confidence with the forecasters that we're heading into a serious situation. By Thursday, really by tomorrow afternoon, their confidence level will either grow or not. And if it grows from today, it becomes a certainty. And I'm telling you, with this much ice, your home, if your home has heat with an electric heat source, you're not going to have heat. So you're going to have to find a way to keep yourself warm, take care of your family. My relatives, my brothers and sisters and I, we all talked about Mama today. She's in the path of this thing. And I've got some siblings that live in areas that don't have it, and we're going to take care of her. You take care of yours. But you're going to need it, and we'll spend a lot of time over the next couple of days, and I know some of our other shows will too, because we really do care about the audience and shove all the other daily nonsense aside when it comes to issues like this. But this may be the most crippling ice storm we've seen, I'm going to say, in my lifetime. I don't remember big ice storms. I know we had one in around 82. We had one, I remember I was in school, in college in the mid-'80s, I want to say about 87. That was pretty epic. It did a lot of tree damage. But dead trees, trees with bad roots, all that stuff's coming down. Power lines everywhere, limbs on power lines, even some structures that with weak roofs may have issues with this ice. And that's not even to speak to roads being impassable, because you cannot drive on ice. I don't care if you do have a four-wheel drive or you're a lesbian with your favorite Subaru, you're not driving on ice. So we're going to be, wherever you get by Friday is where you're going to be potentially for a few days. You're going to be landlocked and living off the land with whatever resources you have. So get a proper heating source, stock up on your food items. The good thing about this time of the year is it's cold outside, so you don't worry about losing refrigeration. You can set your food outside, and your food will stay cool enough to probably preserve it. But your communication will go down if you're internet dependent, if the power goes down. So think that through. I'm telling you, when all that goes down, we'll still be here, and we have generators and backup systems in these storms. So an old school radio will suffice to get warnings. And I'm even working on my system here at the home studio to be able to be up and powered up. If you don't have a backup generator, if you can find one, have the money to go get one, have a generator, don't run it inside. We'll go through in granular detail some of these tips, and I'll take calls on tips. And I'll share this again. I talked about it yesterday. But we had a caller years ago said that he did this in his home. Just go shut your power off. Maybe do it tomorrow or the next day. And live with your house for about an hour. Just shut the breaker off where everything's gone. Because you really forget how dependent we are and how many things could be in the gaps for your preparation. And then look around for what's missing. What do you not? Do you have candles, or is everything charged? Gas up your vehicles. Get batteries for everything that needs batteries. Charge up all your devices. Store as much electricity as you can this way. And we'll all get through it. But the bitter cold, I'm telling you, what I'm really concerned about is, and if I have to play out worst case scenarios for some people in our area, there's a danger in it in that the roads are impassable. You have normal medical emergencies. We're talking about house fires because people don't know how to use heat sources and will make mistakes and burn their houses down, carbon monoxide issues. It could be calamitous if we get more than an inch of ice in our area. So just know that I'm amped up on it. We'll talk about it quite a bit today and endlessly probably between now and the end of the week. But we don't want to skip all the major headlines and everything that's going on. Now, Trump just started taking questions. We've got time to go back to the weather later. I think what I want to do, AJ, I'll listen out for those questions during the break. Let's get our break now. We'll come back, and I'm sure he'll do this for a while, and we'll listen to what some of the reporters are asking him. A lot to deal with today on the show. Should be alive in a very breaking headline-oriented show. That's what we do. 545-9950 if you want to get in on it. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Michelson Laser Vision, first sponsor up today. I do appreciate Michelson and what they did for me years ago and giving me 2015 vision. I was probably like some of you. I just went numb when people started talking about LASIK. I wasn't interested, didn't want to spend the money, thought it was risky, thought I was fine with my glasses. But that's not always the case, and I'm telling you that you owe it to yourself if you're in glasses or contacts to at least get that consultation. They're not going to sales pitch you. They don't have to do that. Their practice is full. They're a very respected practice, and they believe in doing things ethically. So they're just going to examine you and give you your options, pluses and minuses, risk and benefits. And that's how you ought to get it done, and do it with the legendary practice of Dr. Mark and Dr. Jennifer Michelson, downtown UAB Highlands, MichelsonLaserVision.com, MichelsonLaserVision.com. We'll take a quick break and come back and listen to Trump in a minute. Y'all stay tuned. Lead on Live. Y'all, Danny Knowles with the Knowles Group, ready to guide you through days like today. It's been tumultuous on the markets. The media has been saying it's about these Greenland talks, but it's really got to do with the Japanese bond market. The thing about Danny and his team is, though, they don't panic. They also don't get too fired up when stocks are way up and start pitching you on stuff. They have a plan that defies all that and plays the averages and will get you to where you need to be when you need to be there with the amount of money that you seek to try to get your goals, try to meet those. You need to know what kind of discipline and what kind of contributions and what kind of effort you need to make between now and then. Let them get you on that track. You'll thank yourself later. Your future self will be glad that you did work with Danny Knowles. He's a lifelong friend of mine, so I can recommend him to you just as a friend. It's the KnowlesGroup.com, N-O-L-E-S, the KnowlesGroup.com. All right, let's go listen to the White House briefing for a few minutes. This is the president going at it with the reporters, which is always entertaining. Stay tuned for that.
Months, less than 12 months. I mean, in 12 months, we have the strongest border we've ever had. We have prices that are much, much lower than they were for the last. We inherited very high prices. We inherited, remember this, inflation was at a historic high. We had never had inflation like that. They say 48 years, but whether it's 48 years or ever, we had the highest inflation, in my opinion, that we've ever had. Prices, because of that, were very high. I inherited, we brought down eggs immediately. Remember the first news conference, they were screaming at me about eggs. I was in the position for 2 days, and they're screaming. We brought eggs down to lower than what they were before. And by the way, they continue that way. We brought the prices down from when I came into office and from what Biden had, way down. We're going to bring them down further. But the job we did is a miracle. One of the reasons I'm doing this today is to explain. We inherited a mess, and we've made it a beautiful, beautiful picture. Think of gasoline at $1.99 in many states. $1.99 a gallon. It was $4.50, $5, in some cases $6 or $7. We're at $1.99. And energy is so big that with energy, everything else comes down. But the prices are coming way down, and we're going to bring them down further. But we started up here with these guys. We inherited a country that was broken. We inherited a country, and I have a very warm spot. We've done very well with Venezuela. And by the way, that even in itself is going to help us bring down the oil prices. I mean, the Venezuelan oil, we've taken 50 million gallons of oil. We've taken 50 million barrels of oil out of Venezuela in the first 4 days. We've got millions of barrels of oil left. We're selling it on the open market. We're bringing down oil prices incredibly. And when they come down, and they've already come down, again, $1.99 a gallon for oil. Nobody thought they'd ever see it. All right, one or two more. Go. Yes.
President, I want to ask you about Iran. Is the military option still on the table? And can you assure us that the killing in Iran has stopped? And when regard to the Peace Council, which members have to pay $1 billion?
So with Iran, are you from Iran?
No, I cover the White House.
Where are you from?
I'm Palestinian American.
So with Iran, they were going to hang 837 people. And I let them be known that, and we let them know that if that happens, that will be a very bad day for them. And they decided not to do it. They didn't hang the people. I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future, but supposedly they've taken that off the table. But they were going to, last week, they were going to hang on Thursday or Wednesday. They were going to hang, I think, 837 people, and they didn't hang anybody. So we're just going to have to see what happens with Iran. Is the military option off the table?
President Trump. Thank you, President Trump.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead, I'll take your question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, right here.
Thank you, Mr. President. You promised during your second inaugural to always put America first. I'm curious, how would you winning the Nobel Peace Prize improve the lives of average, everyday Americans? Why is this prize so important?
It wouldn't improve the lives of any. What improved the lives of people are people that are living. I saved probably tens of millions of lives in the wars. You know, if you add up the numbers, just Just if you look at any one of those wars, you're talking about millions of people. You multiply it times 8. But when you look at India and Pakistan, that could have been 10, 15, 20 million people. Could have been more than that. So I saved millions of people. So that, to me, is the big thing. What?
You suggested a moment ago that perhaps the reason why a positive story about the economy isn't getting through is because of, bad communications people. But are average Americans wrong to still feel high prices? And how much longer does the White House hope that they?
So I think a lot of people are listening to the fake news a little bit. And I'm not blaming anybody. I think I blame ourselves. I think we've done a much better job than we're able to promote. We're not promoting. We're doing a great job, and we're sort of letting the promotion take care of itself. One of the reasons I'm doing this news conference, I think it's important. We have taken a mess and made it really good. It's going to get even better. But if you look at prices from a year or a year and a half ago, you look at the Biden prices, they were way up through the sky. And, they use the word affordability. They just say affordability, and they don't talk about it. They created the affordability problem, and we are solving it. We have solved a lot of it. Again, everybody agrees in this room, I think, gasoline prices have come per gallon way down. When that happens, everything else comes down, but they've come down way down. Many of the groceries have come way down. It's all happening, and it's happening strong. But if you go back a year and a half, 2 years, take a look at those prices and look at the prices now.
Is it
President of Venezuela, you made a condition.
Where are you from?
I'm from Spain.
Nice place.
Thank you. You made a condition that the political prisoners should be freed. It seems that they are not being as fast as they promised in the beginning. Would that be an issue for the current government?
They've agreed that they're going to let, I guess, most of them out. Or depends on what they did, but they have released a lot of. Released a lot of political prisoners in Venezuela.
President, earlier on last year, you had indicated that you wanted to take back the Panama Canal. I know we've heard a lot about Greenland. Is that still on the table?
I don't want to tell you that. Sort of. I must say, sort of. That's sort of. Okay, one more. Yes, blonde, blue. Yes, go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead with the blue, holding the computer.
If a consequence of your determination to take control of Greenland is the ultimate breakup of the NATO alliance, is that a price you're willing to pay?
You mean the breakup of it's
the,
very interesting.
The NATO alliance.
So I think something's going to happen that's going to be very good for everybody. Nobody's done more for NATO than I have, as I said before, in every way. Getting them to go up to 5% of GDP was something that nobody thought was possible, and pay. At 2%, they weren't paying. At 5%, they are paying. And they're buying a lot of things from us, and they're giving them, I guess, to Ukraine. That's up to them, but they're giving them to whoever they're giving them to, but they're buying a lot. I think that we will work something out where NATO is going to be very happy, and where we're going to be very happy.
Last question. We'll recap some of this and go through other things, take your calls, and chase the other headlines as we move on. Right now, bottom of the hour. Back in a minute. Hit the feed. All right, 233 Leland Live, Talk 99.5, Crocker Moving Services bringing you the show tonight. That's Eric's company. Man, what a great mover. You know, it turns out being a Marine is pretty good training for running a moving company. They have a lot in common. It's tough work. You got to do things right, in the right order, be efficient with your tasks, lead people. Eric's such a good leader. These young men that work for him work so hard, and I think that's because they love their job. They love who they work for. A happy crew is going to treat your stuff right, and that's the main thing. They really do get your things from A to B in the most professional manner, great prices. They can scale their services down to a minimum of 2 hours. It's Crocker Moving Services. Been with us for years, and I do appreciate everything Eric's been able to do over the years for us and me and all my moves and anything I've got going on. You will too, whether your moves are large across the country or just a couple hours. They've got a 2-hour minimum rate. Check them out. CrockerMovingServices.com, CrockerMovingServices.com. Okay, so Trump's wrapped up. We'll try to review some of that later. There must be 100 sound bites from an hour and a half in front of the cameras. He is off to Davos, Switzerland to tell the globalists that globalism is over. I can't wait to see that speech tomorrow. It's a very important speech because we're at a crossroads. That's what some of this Greenland stuff's about. That's what the Venezuelan stuff's about. We're reclaiming our hemisphere. We're protecting our neighborhood. We're running the bad guys out, and we're going to control our future, our energy, our manufacturing, all of the stuff that's so critical to the infrastructure of this part of the world, not just us, but our neighbors in this hemisphere and true allies, not the phonies in NATO and not those ridiculous people in the UN. And Davos is neither. It's just a gathering of elites that have come up with some of the worst public policy known to mankind in the history of the entire freaking world. And Trump's going to the Lion's Den tomorrow, and that should be a good day. But meantime, we got our own stuff to deal with here and around the world and around the country. We are standing by live right now to go to a Homeland Security update on the ongoings in Minnesota. Minnesota has dominated the headlines, as you know, for almost 3 weeks now with a lot of violence, chaos, rudeness, debauchery, stolen money. It's the epicenter of the whole immigration story right now in this very bizarre place with all these bizarre instances. And so more reaction to that stuff. But subpoenas, again, going out today for Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, the Mayor Jacob Frey. All of those people got handed some paper from the FBI today to show up at a grand jury that is investigating their roles in all of these incidents. And they have just neglected their duties to keep their communities safe and, in fact, have fomented some of this obnoxious violence that we've had to deal with as a country, not really up front because it's the poor people that live in Minnesota, the decent people that work and live there and have been there for generations that are having to put up with this. This isn't because of Trump's policies. This is because of Joe Biden's policies and Barack Obama's policies. They let all of this chaos into this country, and it's not just a Minnesota story, so y'all all know that. But we'll go to that news conference in a little bit and see if there's anything to be revealed. Some of these things are just to fill in gaps. Maybe they're going to announce something. Who knows? We'll go to that here in just a little bit. Let me check some other things on my list before we get too far down the road. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to keep going back to these weather updates somewhere around 4 in about an hour and a half. What did you say, AJ? Did you say something? Oh, my camera shot. Thank you. I keep forgetting we have TV cameras. I have to switch my cameras over here. Hey. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, as we get going this hour, I need to take a personal minute to remember a guy who had a big impact on me when I was young into politics. But I was sad to hear this morning that John Giles passed away. John, I couldn't believe he was only 70 years old when he passed. And John was just, he was sort of I guess when I was young and had left the media business and got involved in organizational politics, he's one of the first people I met, and just a class guy, a gentleman. He loved God. He tried to take his passion for his Bible and his faith and apply it into the public square, and he did so with a lot better grace and class than I do on a daily basis. He really did. He, for a long time, ran the Christian Coalition until that group got completely hijacked and bought out, and it barely exists anymore. But in its day, it had a voice, it had a seat at the table, they had an impact because they were very active in educating their supporters on what these people were up to, what these politicians really stood for. And I think that void of not only that organization, but other religious-based organizations, Christian-based organizations that have taken a backseat in the public dialogue nowadays is part of the problem we have in this country right now. You take an incident like we saw. I thought about John when I saw his passing, and instantly I thought about the incident at the church in St. Paul. In John's day as a leader of that group and with his fellow leaders from around the country, they would have had something to say. They would have been very encouraging of other members of the faith and leaders of the faith, people from the pulpit, to be active and vocal about houses of worship. It doesn't mean you got to take sides between ICE and illegal immigrants or any of this nonsense, but you have to condemn these kind of things in a country that has faith at the very heart of everything that our Constitution was designed to work around. It just does. We're not an agnostic nation. You can be that way, but at its heart, and for this thing to work, people were supposed to guide themselves, have a moral code, have a decency. De Tocqueville famously toured this country and tried to write about why it was great, why it became this world power and this beacon to the whole world of freedom. And how did that happen here? De Tocqueville was a Frenchman, and it's one of his most famous quotes, and I may botch a word or two of it, but we've used it over and over for years and years, was America is great because America is good. And what he's saying is it's the decency of the people he would, after he left the cities, he had a much different view of the country even then in our cities, and then he went out into the countryside where people did take care of their neighbors, and they had core values that we all shared in common. And that's being broken apart. I would dare suggest to you that some of the illegal immigration in this country, some of those folks are very sympathetic. They are honest people that do want to work. Some of them want to become Americans, but they themselves have ulterior motives to our traditions and culture and history. And the people that sent them here and paid for them to be here and were giving them money to stay here have an ulterior motive as well, and that is to break up that goodness. It's to break up our cultural bonds. It's to break up what we have in common. I saw a line. I wish I'd saved the whole piece. I read through a piece this morning from a person talking about how the church should react in these moments. And it was just surreal for me to be reading this thought leader and mourning a thought leader from my own personal past who did. Now, I hadn't talked to John in years, and he sort of faded from the public spotlight, but I knew he was giving it his all at one point as the leader of those groups. And to sit here and watch, there was another faith leader that said that one of the things that's so threatening to the ideological left and globalist and communist and Marxist and all those groups that think like groups, one of the things that's the most threatening to them is prayer itself. It is people gathering and seeking a higher power that's above all of this and having a commonality about it. Those people are hard to dominate. They're hard to break. They're hard to defend. When they truly know what they believe and are willing to stand up for it and die for it and defend it, that's a hard country to dominate, which is why we were left that First Amendment protection to gather and to worship by the founders that understood the importance of it. And if we allowed churches to continue to be assaulted, and I'm telling you, it's going to happen again. There are people in Minnesota that are calling for these tactics to be used again, for more churches to be disrupted. They really think they have some kind of moral predicate to do this kind of stuff. And so we're in an ideological battle on top of everything else that we're dealing with. And again, God rest the soul of John Giles. I'm glad I was able to know him in his lifetime. We now see the news conference is starting, AJ. We may have to slide some more breaks around. This is the head of Border Patrol speaking right now. He's been out in the streets in the middle of all this. Let's see what they're saying at Homeland Security in Minnesota today.
Our communities and our nation a safer place. I'm joined by my colleague, Executive Associate Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Mr. Marcos Charles. Now, folks, let me be clear from the start that public safety in Minneapolis is not negotiable. When violent criminals exploit gaps in enforcement, gaps at that state and local level most especially, federal law enforcement has a responsibility to act. That is why we are here. And that is what this operation is about. Our operations are lawful, they're targeted, and they're focused on individuals who pose a serious threat to this community. They are not random, and they are not political. They are about removing criminals who are actively harming Minneapolis neighborhoods. For too long, residents have been told that enforcing our nation's immigration laws undermines public safety. In reality, the opposite is true. When the law is not enforced, violent offenders remain free. Criminal networks expand, and the community pays the price. Our neighbors, our citizens, our friends pay the price. Rather than confront that reality of which I've just spoken, leaders like Tim Walz or Mayor Frey have relied on heated rhetoric and accusations that distract from the facts. The facts are that federal agents are arresting murderers, rapists, child predators, cartel-connected criminals, and other individuals who pose a real danger to the people of Minneapolis. As these operations began and since, there have been constant attempts to interfere with lawful enforcement of our nation's Title VIII immigration laws here in Minneapolis. Officers have been violently and aggressively assaulted, objects have been thrown, and vehicles damaged. Despite that violence, enforcement has continued unabated. Our officers remain professional, focused, courteous, and committed to the mission. That mission, again, being Title VIII immigration enforcement. This effort reflects a coordinated federal approach. Agencies are working together under Title VIII authorities. Agencies like the United States Border Patrol, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and many other allied law enforcement agencies, FBI, DEA, ATF, and many others have came together under this operation, under this umbrella. We share intelligence and execute operations in a unified manner. That coordination is essential to effective enforcement and public safety. Since the start of this operation, we've arrested some of the most dangerous criminal offenders operating in Minnesota. In the entire state of Minnesota, we have arrested some of the most violent criminal offenders right here in this city. These are not minor violators or minor garden variety criminals. These are repeat offenders with serious criminal histories. Now, folks, before I came here today, I printed out a few individuals that I'd like to share with you. Individuals that were arrested since yesterday. These 3 individuals were arrested just since yesterday. Keep in mind now, these individuals were walking the streets of Minneapolis with impunity as of yesterday. We've got Hovai Kumaye, a criminal illegal alien from Laos, a registered sex offender, convicted of sex offense against a child, including fondling and failure to register as a sex offender. This individual was walking the streets of Minneapolis just yesterday. This individual right here. It's very interesting that I haven't seen this individual or many others like him reported on very much by the local news media or the state news media. That's interesting. But wait, let's don't quit there. No, you can't. Let's continue here. We've got Samuel Aravelo Hernandez, a criminal illegal alien from Guatemala, charged with rape and lewd or lascivious acts with a minor. Now, think about that for just a second. Rape, and then on top of that, lewd and lascivious acts with a minor. This individual was walking the streets of Minneapolis with impunity just yesterday. Let's don't quit there. Let's keep on there. We've got Annabelle Gomez, a criminal illegal alien from Honduras, previously arrested for criminal sexual conduct and domestic assault. Other convictions include disorderly conduct and driving under the influence of liquor. Walking the streets as of yesterday. These are just three that I decided to print out. There's a whole stack of them. There's a whole stack of these. As a matter of fact, when we look over the past year at the 10,000 that have been arrested here in Minneapolis and Minnesota, that stack is enormous. These are the kinds of individuals this operation focuses on. Individuals who escalate situations and endanger others. Again, our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues, and Ma and Pa America. This is exactly why interior enforcement exists, to remove dangerous criminals from our communities, remove dangerous illegal alien criminals from our communities. It's also important, folks, to address a point that's often overlooked. Interior enforcement does not exist in isolation. It's not just about interior enforcement. It's a dichotomy here. It's interior enforcement and border enforcement. What happens in Minneapolis is directly connected at what happens at our borders. Interior enforcement and border enforcement, border security, are intricately connected. For years, federal law enforcement was placed in a defensive posture, especially over those past 4 years. Agents were overwhelmed, processing massive numbers of illegal aliens coming into the country, often with limited vetting, minimal accountability, and few consequences. I think that's proven right here just by those three that I held up there. Time and resources that should have been dedicated to public safety were diverted to administrative processing, and criminal organizations exploited that environment. Over the past year, under the leadership of our President, Donald J. Trump, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, that dynamic has changed. It's changed radically. It's changed more than I've ever seen in my over 3 decades in law enforcement. Border enforcement has reached historic levels. I actually called back to my home sector in El Centro today. They had 1 apprehension over the past 24 hours. 1 along that 75-mile stretch of border in El Centro alone. Last week, there were several days where they had 0 border crossers in that sector. That's the same thing across all 20 Border Patrol sectors. Very few crossings. Illegal crossings have dropped to record lows. Catch and release has ended. Consequences have been restored. Again, consequences restored. Because the border is now secure, law enforcement can do its job more effectively. Agents are no longer tied up processing and releasing individuals into the interior, individuals that we just talked about. They can focus on who is coming into this country, and just as importantly, identifying and removing those who should not be here. And that shift matters. It allows for meaningful vetting, targeted enforcement, and a renewed focus on public safety over paperwork. Public safety over paperwork. Border security provides operational control, disrupts cartel pipelines, and prevents criminal flow from reaching American cities. It also allows law enforcement to focus, again, on removing individuals who slipped through during years of failed policies and later committed serious crimes. What happens on the border doesn't stay on the border. Border enforcement and interior enforcement are 2 parts of the same mission. A secure border without interior enforcement leaves communities vulnerable. And interior enforcement without border control is unsustainable. Again, it's that dichotomous relationship. When both are aligned, the results are clear. Over the course of this administration, more than 10,000 criminal illegal aliens, as I said, have been apprehended here in Minneapolis over the past year. And in just the last 6 weeks alone, during this most current surge, 3,000 arrests of some of the most dangerous offenders operating in Minneapolis have occurred. 3,000. These are not technical violations, as I mentioned. These are individuals responsible for serious harm. Think about it for just a second, what the rape of a child actually entails. It seems as if that's glossed over by the media oftentimes. What does that entail, and what's that like? Think about that. Murderers, rapists, gang members, they're not the people we want in our community. This is what public safety looks like. When the law is enforced consistently and professionally, we will continue enforcing the law, we will continue making arrests, and we will continue working to keep Minneapolis safe. The mission continues at the border and in the interior, because that effective enforcement depends on both occurring at the same time. Let's make America safe again. Honor first. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon. My name is Marcos Charles. As Greg introduced, I am the Executive Associate Director for ICE Enforcement Removal Operations. Thank you for joining us. We announced the current status of Operation Metro Surge. As you know, the Department of Homeland Security has arrested over 10,000 illegal aliens in Minnesota since President Trump took office. Over the weekend and through yesterday's holiday, ICE arrested 113 illegal aliens in Minnesota. Some of the criminal aliens that were arrested, whose photos you see beside me on the monitor, include an illegal alien gang member from Laos with convictions for homicide and robbery, an illegal alien from Laos who's been convicted for sodomizing a 12-year-old girl and sexual assault, an illegal alien from the Marshall Islands who has 24 criminal convictions, including assault, domestic abuse, and theft. There's an illegal alien from Honduras convicted of 3 DUIs who has also been arrested for kidnapping, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and possession of a stolen firearm. An illegal alien from South Africa convicted of violating a restraining order and arrested for domestic violence, assault, meth possession, and DUI. We are currently also looking for 2 sexual predators who are at large in or around St. Paul right now. Lu Mau Ah, a criminal illegal alien from Laos who is wanted for sexually assaulting a child, rape, kidnapping, and domestic violence. And Kong Ming Bang, a criminal illegal alien from Laos who is wanted for sexual assault, gang activity, and simple assault. If you have any information about these 2 criminal illegal aliens or any other criminal illegal aliens, please call the ICE tip line at 866-DHS-2-ICE or visit our website at ice.gov to submit a tip. Since President Trump took office 1 year ago today, the state of Minnesota has released nearly 500 criminal aliens who were in police or state custody rather than turning them over to ICE for removal proceedings. Many of these criminals already have a final order of removal, which means an immigration judge has determined that they have no legal basis to remain in the United States. ICE currently has more than 1,360 immigration detainers on illegal aliens in Minnesota jails and prisons, and we are calling on Governor Walz and Mayor Frey to turn these criminal illegal aliens directly over to ICE to keep Minnesota residents in our community safe. If local officials, including those in the Twin Cities, don't want ICE to arrest criminal aliens that are at large in their communities, the best solution is to turn them over to us in a safe, controlled setting like a jail or prison, instead of releasing them back onto the street to victimize our neighborhoods, where your children go to school, where your parents live, and where you worship, shop, and spend time with your loved ones. The holiday weekend's arrests reflect ICE's commitment to public safety and responsible enforcement. When criminal illegal aliens threaten the Twin Cities or any other city in America, we act decisively to remove them from the community in a controlled and lawful manner. Our goal is simple. We're here to protect the American communities from people like the ones you see here on the monitor. Thank you.
For Commander Babino, some of us in this room, this is A.C. Thompson with PBS Frontline, have followed you from city to city and documented your activities. How is what you're dealing with here different than what we've seen in other places?
Well, Mr. Thompson, thanks for the question. We've been in many cities, as you know. We've been in Los Angeles, Chicago, Charlotte, New Orleans, and now, obviously, Minneapolis. So what we've seen that's a bit different here is the organization of some of the groups. The groups are a bit better organized. They've got some excellent communications, and that coupled with a very poor response from the mayor and the governor, those two things coupled together make that a difficult operating environment at times. And the reason I say that is I just came from Operation Catahoula Crunch there in Louisiana, in which state and locals, including the governor, the mayors, the police chief, worked in close concert for us to do what my colleague here, Marcos Charles, said, and that's remove violent offenders, bad people and bad things from the streets. And in doing that, I had one act of violence against Border Patrol, one notable act of violence against Border Patrol.
We want to stay with these kind of things as long as we can, but we can't give the whole show over to them. So we'll keep listening to this, see what they have to say. Interesting stats, very matter-of-fact stuff on the actual operation in Minneapolis, despite all the theatrics and TV stuff that you've seen. We'll take a quick break and come on back here and bring you more and take your phone calls too. Leland Live, TalkNet and M5. Let's go to the top of the hour in the 1819 news back here in just a minute.